please.
The Prophet warns all Muslims to be read at every meeting. I hereby inform all members that they must end all radical speeches while at work in their homes or on the streets. We are for peace and not destruction. Stop flashing your cards at Europeans. It causes confusion. Remember, your card is for your salvation. Failure to obey these orders will be of severe consequence. We are for love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And when these principles are violated, justice must then take its course. Any member or group of members who hold malicious feelings towards the temple or the prophet, or violate the divine covenant of the Moorish movement, will receive their reward from Allah for their unjust deeds. All true Moors will and must obey the law as laid down to them by their prophet. If they lose confidence in the prophet, they should turn in their card and button, cease wearing their turban and fez, and return to the state where I, the prophet, found you. This is a holy and divine movement founded by the prophet Noble Ali, and if the prophet is not right, the temple is not right. The prophet therefore is sending out the divine plea to all Moorish Americans that they do their part in protecting their prophet and the temple. This is an everlasting movement founded by the prophet through the will of Allah to redeem his people from their sinful ways. Peace, Noble Ali. Islam.
Oh, you can start. That's in the thing at the top.
This is commercial.
We want to thank everybody for coming out. This is Moorish Science Temple of America. This is Subordinate Temple 12. And we always enjoy everybody coming out. We enjoy being here. Before we get started, do anybody have any questions or anything they need to ask? You need to say? Today's
it's a quiet group.
Quiet, we can get quiet for a while.
I'm about to make everybody do jumping jacks. Let's go. I'm just playing.
We're gonna start today. The topic is institutions. And this is gonna be a little more interactive than the previous classes.
Islam. I do have something. I'm sorry, because before anybody has to leave, there's something important coming up, and I think that perhaps we should address that because I've been receiving some questions. Okay. So, Grand Governor,
check that out.
Could you? Oh, you got check marks.
Yeah.
Could you address? There is a certain wonderful event that's about to come up, a powerful event.
Yes, it is.
And it's Ramadan. And I don't know how many people have actually observed Ramadan before, and how many people know the meaning and the purpose and I won't say rules because that's not how I look at it, but what goes on at that time period. So can you enlighten us?
Who knows about Ramadan? Do anybody? Who doesn't know? Who hasn't had anything? Okay, that's not that bad. So we every year in the month of Ramadan, we have a fast that takes place, and it's done as a community, and it's for Muslims, and not only will we be doing it, but Muslims all over the world will observe Ramadan, and they fast. The fast consists of eating in the morning before the sun come up, and then waiting for the sun to go down, then eating again. So obviously you cannot starve. So you're only gonna eat in the morning, then you're gonna eat again in the evening. Brother in the back. Drinking too, right? Right. You can't eat or drink. You want to abstain for things. If you're married, then you should not have relations until after dark. If you can't sustain even that for the 30 days, then all of this you'll see at the end. It's hard to explain the benefit till you actually flow through it. There's a lot of benefits to it, to your body, to your spirituality, and to your growth. You'll find a lot of growth right after Ramadan. So we did it here last year. We did it. It really turned out well, and everybody was excited, and there was a lot of us involved. So if you haven't, it's something that you want to try. Now, if you're not a member and you're a little bit queasy about it, that's fine. You still can participate in Ramadan without being a member yet. It's nothing. There's no pressure to cause it. We have no compulsion at all here. There's no compulsion for you to join or anything. So you decide what's best for you, and that's what's best for us. Believe that.
One of the benefits that I actually found, and this is going to sound kind of punitive, but it really isn't when you actually look at it, is I drive a lot when I'm working. Normally, you drive past someplace and you're like, oh, let me grab this real quick to eat. You don't realize how much money you're actually spending by grabbing something real quick to eat or something real quick to drink throughout the day. So what I did was that money that I would normally, I'm going past and I'm like, oh, let me grab this. Oh, I'm not going to grab that. So then I'd look online and see how much that was and put that money to the side and see what you actually have at the very end. And it's a really nice benefit when we consider how much money we are actually spending, that now we're not spending it. And spiritually, I can say that I felt more grounded, because then I wasn't, okay, let me run here, let me run there. It was more stability. There was more time that I was actually putting into what I was doing, and more time that I was actually putting into not doing things at the end of the day, because it was all about, okay, now we're at the end of the day. We got a whole plan. I was able to eat healthier because I've had 12 hours or whatever to plan what we're going to fix. So there were a lot of benefits in a lot of different areas for me.
And you appreciate it when it's time to eat.
You do, you be excited. Like, yes.
And you have days where people can come together and, like, let's say he would say, okay, I'm on for Tuesday. He might say I'm on for Wednesday. And we can meet here and we can break the fast together for that day. So everybody can come together and eat together, then, you know, pray together and all of that. So it builds a strength. And it also, it exposes your weaknesses, you know, to you, to let you know, because there's no really reason why, other than a medical concern, and a lot of those you can work by, the sister can help you with those, for you not to be able to go 8 or 10 hours, 10 to 12 hours without eating. You know what I'm saying? When you just ate in the morning and then you eat again when you're done. So you don't have a whole lot of reason, other than the fact that we've been stuck in a mundane type of character where we're just doing things because we used to do it. So it breaks that up, and then it lets you see that you're much more than what you think you are.
Amazingly enough, there are restaurants in Toledo that during Ramadan,
they change their
schedule to fit Ramadan, so that during the daytime, they're not open, they're not serving. They're serving people who are breaking fast at sunset.
All right. So that could be something to go and do also. So yeah, it's a lot more to it than that, but this class is not on that.
No, I just think that each week is be prepared to get towards there. Now you have a seed and you can think about it.
Right. And we have security can get if you pass the register list out. Did you get that done? We'll get that. And when you sign in, if you're interested, just put a star by your name if you're interested in more information about Ramadan. And then I'll get more information to you. On there, it has the email address and everything. So right there, I'll be able to send you the information. The other topic we need to go ahead and get out of the way is the garden. We had a marketed success last year with the garden. We was able to give a couple elderly facilities things that they hadn't had in a long time. They said they loved it. We gave some to a couple of mosques. We passed out some vegetables and things, and we gave out to family members. So we had a school that came over to another facility, which was Grace Church. We did a joint venture with them. We brought the kids in and we fed them that stuff that came out of the garden, and they knew what each item was, and now they know what it tastes like and that you can grow it, you know. So that was a good thing. So we want to be able to try to build on that this year. So also, if you want more information about the garden and want to participate, you can put 2 stars by your name. We'll get you more information. Okay? Wow. You got to keep that confined in 2 snaps.
2 snaps.
Right. We got does anybody any questions or anything? So the topic we're gonna endeavor to try to bring some more light to is institutions, you know. And with that, we're gonna start, like I said, we're gonna have more interaction, because I want to know what people think. What do you think an institution is? You know, and, anybody? Brother up here.
Being programmed to operate a certain way.
Programmed to operate a certain way. Anybody else? We're gonna get 4 or 5 different answers to this, because we want to try to get a clear view. What is it? What is an institution?
Feel free to give examples, like specific examples.
Hospital, job.
Okay.
School.
Hospital, job, school.
Prison.
As brother said, the mind. We got prison.
House.
House.
Yeah.
That brother about to get
Anybody
in trouble.
else? Brother here. What do you think of institution?
Oh, I just say, that's fine, brother, speak. Work release, something you have to go to all the time.
Something you got to do a lot. You're doing it.
The key thing that I heard him say was that you have to. So
Right,
there's
something.
compulsion in an
Okay.
institution.
Okay.
This sister
Anything
over
else?
here, you got something?
You got the definition? I know you. Let's get the definition in.
A society or organization founded for a religious, educational, social, or similar purpose.
Educational or social purposes. So there's a purpose to an institution. Now, and it's not automatically a bad thing. It wasn't intended to be a bad thing. So institutions are themselves only the creation of the people. So we don't have institutions that are let's say, evil. The institution cannot be evil. It's a construction of the people. Islam. And we want to get to, when we say institutions, we want to say corporations, municipalities, like it was listing some things. Any more things you can think of as like an institution? Anybody?
I just love that the brother talked about the mind, because that right there inherently is good, but ultimately through programming, the mind becomes its own self-limiting institution.
It can be limited. Anybody else on? We got corporations, we got municipalities, we have cities. We have a mom and pop corporation around the corner. We got LLCs. All of these are corporations. They're institutionalized. People have been institutionalized to function in these manners, and we are interacting with these all day, every day. It's a part of our everyday life. If I leave and go to Europe, I'll interact with an institution of some kind. If I leave here and go to Medina or Mecca, I will interact with a corporation of some kind. There's no way that you will not. So corporations in themselves are not bad things. So the people are the ones that's causing the majority of the issues when you're dealing with those. And we're going to see why. That's what this institutions is all about. So we're going to come to a point of why we're dealing with them. If we go to chapter 43, what XL 111. They got that. Not B.
B, XLB 111. It's on page 59.
I'm sorry. You got. No, I said 43, didn't I?
But see, the thing is, that's not what you want.
My page said. But I said XL 111. Right. So that's on page 53, actually. So, and it's going to be 1 through 5. We're going to read here.
You keep getting some divine intervention saying, bro, you need to read this one. You see how I keep rolling back over there?
Right. We got to get the basics done. Everybody on that page? You know what? Y'all sitting here together. Can you give that Quran to the sister and brother back here? And then who else doesn't have one? I'll make some adjustment. Sister right here. And get somebody to move.
I'm gonna share this one.
Okay, we're going into holy instructions from the prophet, the insufficiency of knowledge. You see, the insufficiency of knowledge. If there is anything lovely, if there is anything desirable, if there is anything within the reach of man that is worthy of praise, it is not knowledge. And yet, who is it that attaineth it? The statesman proclaiming that he has it. Do we know what he means by statesman? Say what? Yeah. Do you know what he means by statesman? Anybody? Nobody? Like a politician could be that. So you have a politician. You know what I mean? That they always claiming that they have the knowledge to do this. They prepared to do it. And he said, the ruler of the people claiming the praise of it. So the rulers always say, I'm endowed with the knowledge to be able to rule you and lead you. So that's why I'm here in this position. But finding the subject that he possesses it. I'm sorry. The ruler of the people claimeth the praise of it, but findeth the subject that he possesses it. It said, evil is not requisite. That just means like necessary. Evil is not necessary to men, neither can vice be necessary to be tolerated. You know, so bad things about people, we can't just accept and say that it's okay and then go the other way. That can't be tolerated. They say, yet how many evils are permitted by the convenience of the laws? Now, are we all together? The laws are in place and people are telling us, hey, we got to follow the law. Well, we know the law is going to lead to my detriment. You know, like they had to stop and frisk. I'm against the stop and frisk because everybody that look like me is getting stopped and frisked.
Not everybody.
Right.
Not everybody.
Well, no, not everybody. The point is that some laws are biased. So they're saying in here, the prophet is saying for us that yet how many evils are permitted by the convenience of the laws? How many crimes committed by the decree of council? So how many times do they sit and make laws that are unjust for some people and just for others? Did you have something? Yeah. So these.
Islam, I want to expand on this because when I hear the word law, and I did this. Remember that article he said she heard. When I hear the word law, I only think court of law. So let's expand on this a little bit and think about rules and guidelines within any institution. So there's work rules when you work someplace. There's rules within a hospital when you're inside the hospital. And that varies from state to state or from city to city. So sometimes if you look back at those rules, I remember one time Chris and I went to a hospital where they didn't have reverse isolation. And you weren't even able to get masks for someone who had a low blood count. So you knew going in that you were possibly putting this person at risk.
Right.
Where in another area, there was reverse isolation. So that rule in itself, that there was no reverse isolation, put that injured person at risk.
At risk. And that was a rule already.
Yep.
So so that's what we want to see, that there are different rules. And what we're saying here is that how many of these people came together as a council, and whether they made these rules maliciously with their intent or they made it unintentional, it still is harming people who get in the bad end of the stick. So, but that's by that council. And so he said, how many of them has this occurred with? And it said, but be wise, O ruler, and learn, O thou that are to command the nations. One crime authorized by thee is worse than the escape of 10 from punishment. So, anybody want to elaborate on that?
Doesn't have enough position, it could do way more damage than that careful.
Right. Yeah, they can, and that's what it's saying. But he's saying it in a particular way that the person that's the ruler, or the one that knows the right and supposed to be doing right and is administering the right hand out, that person is, when that person makes a mistake, when they rush to try to punish somebody, the accidental punishment of the wrong person is worse than 10 people that got away.
Because they knew.
Right, you see what I'm saying? Right. So when you do wrong to somebody who doesn't deserve it, who has not earned wrong, and you do wrong to them, it's worse than 10 or 15 other people getting away with the bad thing that they did. So it's better for you to move cautiously when you administering your opinion on something, or when you saying that somebody is guilty of something. So it's better to move cautiously than to move hastily and wrongfully commit somebody to punishment for something that they didn't do, you know? So we have to be careful of that. And it's saying that the rulers are more at harm of hurting us than the average person. The average person, right, the average person is not gonna judge me like that, but the ruler is, and the person with the knowledge will. Islam? So he says, when the people are numerous, when the sons increase about thy table, sendest thou them not out to slay the innocent, and to fall before the sword of him who they have not offended. So he's saying here that when your children start increasing, when our nation start increasing, he said, don't send them out to slay the innocent. You know, we go from here to another place across the world to shoot somebody because somebody says something that we're not sure that that's what's going on. So we have to have institutions in place that verify these things for people that we can trust. You know, can I trust Trump to say that, okay, yeah, them people was about to shoot a nuclear bomb at I don't know, the little island, the Cuban island, and blow the island out. We needed to do something. Can I trust that he did all of his due diligence to gather information and that is truthful? Can I trust that? So,
As you say that, the reason why the United States was formed.
yes, without a doubt.
Ohio couldn't trust Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania couldn't trust Michigan. Enter the corporation known as the United States.
Islam, that is true. So we can't trust that. I couldn't trust that.
Islam.
Because Islam.
I have another one because, and they know when it comes to the whole political arena, there's a whole group of people out there that they're not going to see that first. So some years ago, I don't know if you remember, there was the Ebola virus. There was an outbreak. It was here in the United States. There were, and I've been caught a little bit controversial about this because there were some people who were nurses who were diagnosed with this virus. Those nurses decided that they would trust that the institution that they worked for was going to provide them with all the information. They weren't aware whether or not the institution knew all of the information. They just decided they were going to provide them with it, and they didn't look it up. As a consequence, they ended up with the virus when the institution didn't have all the information anyway. So could they trust that institution to know everything without looking into it themselves?
That's not. So that's what it's getting at here is that so is there any questions? Anybody any questions? If everybody's still not clear where we're going here? That's all right, you'll get there. We're making that example she just gave was a perfect example. That because of the institution, people accepted the responsibility of doing what the institutional bylaws said do. This is how we react to these situations. But although when they got there, they got harmed by rules and regulations that was not well thought out, or the people didn't care about the people. Whichever event, it still harmed the people.
And my interpretation of that is, and this is where they say that I'm a little bit controversial. As a medical provider, I simply feel like the nurses should have looked into it. So their colonized mind state is what made them say, well, if this organization who deals in healthcare said this is all I need, then that must be all I need. So that goes to where's our responsibility?
Right. So these are still institutions. Now if we go to 21, same chapter, we're at number 21. Was thou see thine insufficiency more plainly, view at thy devotions, to what end was religion instituted? What is religion?
Way of life.
Read that again. It said, to what end was religion instituted? So what is religion?
Way of life.
It's an institute. He says institute. He said, to what end was religion instituted? So religion is an institution. So your religion and your actions and your way of life become an institution.
To you.
Right. So it's there to provide you with something. And that's what we're talking about, institutions. So we have to figure out what went wrong with these institutions that we all have. But we need to understand, just like we know when we say our higher self, our lower self, and the difference between the two, and what things they do, that allow us to be able to further understand where we're going or where we want to go, when we understand who we are, how we were created, and how the parks work. Well, we create institutions. We need to understand how they work. You see what I'm saying? How they're going to move us forward. Because by all intents and purposes, every one of those institutions will outlive you. That's why they're so great of creation, is because they will outlive your physical body. And they will stay in this physical realm longer than you. It's a carnal need. So it's gonna live as long as one person is alive. The institutions will be continued. Islam. So, and it says that to what end was religion instituted, but to teach thee thy infirmities, to remind thee of thy weakness. So we were saying that the institution is going to show you your infirmities of religion. When we come in, we was talking before, we was talking about that you're going to learn your weaknesses during Ramadan. You're going to see those things. It's going to become clear. And by the time you get to the second week, in the middle of the second week of Ramadan, your mind get really clear. It starts to clear, and you start having thoughts that's quick and right to the point. And you're like, wow, never thought that. And you'll see that now all those things that you put in your body is disturbing your thinking.
Prior to that, your mind will play tricks on you. Your mind will tell you, if I don't eat right now, I'm gonna pass out. And it's only been 3 hours since your last meal. You're not, because any other day you go more than 3 hours without a meal. But on that day, if I don't have some water right now and it's only been 20 minutes, I'm just gonna die of thirst. I'm gonna need an IV. Your mind will play tricks on you.
Right.
Until you actually realize and start to think about it and consider what's actually doing. When you're thinking about higher self and lower self, that lower self, you like, dude. The lower self
is
strong.
The lower self is strong. And it use complacency where you'll just be doing nothing, walking, not thinking about nothing. You walk past a fountain and you push the button. You don't forgot you fasting for the month. And there you go, about to drink the water.
You didn't even want that water out there fountain when you wasn't fasting. You wanted a bottle water. But now this day, you're gonna take any water.
Right, you go. So you have to. So you'll see those things participate. So that's what it say. That religion is to show us our infirmities and it reminds us of our weaknesses. To show thee that from heaven alone art thou to hope for good. So when we're looking at what's good, and what's not good, we have to look when we look to Allah, our higher self, to find what things are good and what things are not. We can't look for something right next to us or people right next to us to explain to us, like the sister said, what they tell us to do. We have to look into that for our own selves. Islam?
Because to do differently is an assumption.
Yes.
You're assuming, and we have a tendency of doing that. The lower self assumes all kinds of stuff. So you're just simply assuming. I'm just gonna assume that they're gonna tell me the correct thing, and if they don't tell me the correct thing, I'm gonna get them. Okay, well you already harmed yourself, so who got that?
Right. So it comes from So when you're looking for hope or you're looking for what's right and what's good to make your decision, you have to look to Allah. You can't look to an institution. You have to look to Allah. The institution can guide me where I want to go, but it's up to me to decide the right thing to do. You see? So as we're going down to number 23. When thou givest an oath, when thou swear thou wilt not deceive, behold, it spreadeth shame upon thy face, and upon the face of him that receiveth it. Learn to be just, and repentance may be forgotten. Learn to be honest, and oaths are unnecessary. Islam. So if you learn to be honest, we don't need an oath. The oaths are what we use right now to hold people's feet to the fire, so to speak, for what their office is required to do. So if it's a judge, he has an oath that he must follow these laws. If it's a congressman or a congresswoman, she has an oath that she must follow these laws of the Constitution for the United States of America and the Constitution of whatever state they're in. If they have to follow these. So these are oaths that hold their feet to the fire when they didn't do it. But we're saying that if people become honest, oaths are unnecessary. So that's where we're at as an institution. We don't want to build what already is built and we can see it doesn't work. We want to build what's going to work. We want to build on honor and honesty. I want to be able to depend on you as you depend on me. And when I say something, it's honest. And when you say something, it's honest. So we can build an institution here that is unparalleled. You know, when the prophet said we're going to lift fallen humanity, the institution will be able to do that. But it only can with the people in it being honest.
One of the things that brings clarity to that situation is we have a tendency, because I've done it too, to think, well, I'll be like, okay, I want to do this, but what is Brother Blackshear Bay gonna say if I do this? Well, the fact of the matter is, you already know you have two choices. You know instinctively what the correct choice is,
Right.
And you know instinctively what the incorrect choice is. If you follow the correct choice, it doesn't matter what somebody else says, because that choice is the only thing that's the truth.
Right. We got to go with that. And we have, and we're going to get into a couple other things here. We're going to XLB 111. All right.
He's been trying to get you there, trying to get you
48. Sister was rushing me into that one.
He kept flipping open. It was like, start here.
And we're gonna go to number 6. Everybody on play?
Page 59.
We as a clean and pure nation, descended from the inhabitants of Africa, do not desire to amalgamate or marry into the families of the pale-skinned nations of Europe, neither serve the gods of their religion, because of our forefathers are the true and divine founders of the first religious creed. Now, when he's saying that we the first religious creed, do we know what the creed is? The things that we do, we follow through, the customs that we have, like my fez, you know, Islam, we're saying like that, our flag, all these things build that, all right? So that's our love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. That's all of our stuff, you know? So that is the first, he said, our first religious creed. And our forefathers created the first institution. So the first institution was created by our forefathers as a religious creed. See? So institutions, that's not bad. It's when you lead away from the practice that your forefathers initiated in it. Islam? So he said, for the redemption and salvation of mankind on earth. So it was put in place by our forefathers for the redemption of mankind on earth. That's all of the kind, people. That our institution was put in place that would help all of them. So that is our focus when we in here, to follow what our forefathers gave us. And if we follow that, it will assist all of our people and inadvertently assist them. It's not. It inadvertently would assist them. And it says in number 7, therefore we are returning the church and Christianity back to the European nations as it was prepared by their forefathers for their earthly salvation. Now we're returning church and Christianity. Now that's an institution. Islam? Right. We're returning church and Christianity. Not just some people, well, I just go to church. I don't really practice Christianity. Okay, well, I just practice Christianity. I don't go to church. All that we giving back. That institution was created for their earthly salvation. So it's not going to bring you earthly salvation. It's created for their earthly salvation. It's an institution. Just as our forefathers created an institution for us to live by, theirs created an institution for them to live by. And if they follow that, it would be fine. Islam? Number 8. While we, the Moorish Americans, are returning to Islam, which was founded by our forefathers for our earthly and divine salvation, and we return back to the institution of Islam. That's what we do. We go back to our studies of Islam as an institution if we want to have salvation. If we don't want salvation, we can stay as Christians. We won't get no earthly salvation at all. Islam?
And the key word is earthly. So when you talk about that, I want you to think about the things that are said like in a governmental institution that align with things that are Christian principles.
Right.
That's the challenge for the
Okay,
week.
say that again.
Think about in the government institution, things that align with things that are Christian values. Look at the dollar bill. It says in God we trust on the dollar bill. We do trust in Allah, but how is that perceived if it's on a dollar bill? So think about how many things fall in line with a specific value and how many things fall in line with Islam and Islamism, which are the value in every and all things.
So the institution of Islam and its principles are not readily adhered to in a Christian society. Do everybody see what I'm saying? So when you try to follow what your forefathers left you, and you in a Christian society, you may find yourself following other rules that put you outside the institution that your prophet left for you. Islam, and we're going to find out exactly what the prophet left, what institution he left for us. And it says here, we're going to go to 45. XLV. Going to the XL to the B. You got it? So we're going to go to number 2.
Page 45.
No, it's page 56. Everybody on point? Page 56 says divine origin of the Asiatic nations. And it's number 2. It reads, the key of civilization was and is in the hands of the Asiatic nations. The Moorish, who were the ancient Moabites, and the founders of the holy city of Mecca. So the institutions that you see was founded in Mecca, was founded by the Moors. So when you look at those things, you have to sit back and meditate on that.
Ah, man, you mean to say that what occurred is these institutions were founded by Moors and then they broke up and became something different?
They got different names. Different names, same thing. And people use them to do what? To try to better their institutions. That's for their people. And we have to use what our people, forefathers left us. We got to go and use those according to how our forefathers said use them. And now I'm gonna give you we're running short on time, but I'm gonna give you back to chapter 48. It's on page 59. One page up. We got it. Okay, we're gonna read number 4. We had a sister read number 4. Go ahead.
The Moorish Temple of America is a lawfully chartered and incorporated organization.
Okay. Now, it says it's a lawfully chartered and incorporated organization. So if it's chartered, what is it? If something is,
Islam has been granted.
Yeah, it's chartered. So that means that it's by law. So this is an institution. This is an institution that we in. It's institutions that lead people where they need to be at. It's the institution that's in place. So now we know that all these things are institutions and they said to be there. Now, why are so many institutions bad then?
Not everybody there to do good.
Not everybody's there to do good. Anybody else? Why are all the institutions bad? Why do we have institution? Why is Christianity institution so bad for us? You had a brother back in the 60s that he shot Martin Luther King's mother. Did anybody know his mother got shot? She was assassinated. Well, I wonder why that institution wouldn't tell you that his mother got assassinated. But everybody know. Now, how could that be possible that you don't know that? And all this about Martin Luther King, there's an art museum, there's a museum for him and everything. But you don't know that his mother was assassinated.
wasn't widely publicized. It's not really something that.
Why wouldn't they publicize that? There was a brother that shot her. Right, and you would think, oh my God. But he said that he was going to shoot the father, but he didn't have a good enough shot, so he shot the wife. And he said that every preacher that preaches Christianity to our people is an enemy to our people. That's what he said. So that's why he shot him. And he had a list in his room of all the other preachers that he was going to shoot because they was guiding his people away from God. Right. So he seen that and took action. He took action to say that Christianity is not going to work for our people.
Now, the action might not have been the best reaction.
Right,
it was a reaction, but
so that is what we're
that's
faced with.
basically saying that the action of saving people is not inherently bad, but the reaction that he had in order to save people was exactly what you're talking about. Islam.
So that is when we look at institutions, we have to look at the people that's manning the post. Because the reason why all those oaths is in place is to try to hold a person to the letter of the form, why it's created. It was created to protect people. The police officer was created to protect people, not harm you. So when he pulled me over and I say, hold on, wait a minute, man, hold on. You towed my car, it's going to create a hardship for me. It's not necessary to show it. Let's just park it over there. Somebody come get it, then I'll go with you. But let's park the car over there, and when I get downtown, I'll call somebody to come pick the car up. But we don't need to tow it and pay $300 to get it back out. No, we're towing it. No, you're not towing it. You got a job to protect me. And I'm telling you, that's going to be a hardship. So the institution was created to help people and make things better. But it cannot be better than the people that's participating in it.
And there's people on both sides, regardless of what the institution is. There's some that do operate the way that they're supposed to. And there's some that let their own personal biases intervene. And they don't mean any good to themselves, let alone anybody else.
The mass amount of institutions and corporations that we have are corrupt. And they're showing no signs of getting better. Why? Because the people are corrupt. Whenever you see somebody with $500 million or $1 billion, you should watch yourself very carefully. Because anybody with enough sense to make $500 million or $1 billion, but then don't understand that he don't need that much money and all of those people, and he's not constantly building shelters and things of this nature for people because he studied making money. But he studied making more and more and more, $1 billion, $2 billion, $5 billion. You must not trust that person. If they come to you, we can do this and I can help you. Beware. When you stick your hand out, what hand you shaking? Because that's a snake. And they always come smiling. I don't care how much money you got if you're not using it for what you're supposed to use it for. And if you did use it for what you use it for, you wouldn't have $1 billion.
I know we're running out of time, but you just used a word that has two meanings when you look at the word. You use the word sense. So sense can be a perception. So that person who had enough sense or knowledge or whatever to create that much money also had a perception that what they were going to do with it may not have been what they were supposed to do with that money.
Wow. Definitely wasn't. So we have institutions that we have to create, and we have to put people in the office that is going to be mindful of honesty and truth and honorable. You see, we can't have people in offices that are not honorable. But we look at the offices that we look today as our president, and we look at before that president and before that president, we've had a lot of people in there that were shady. We have a lot of people that were electorates that voted against the popular vote and voted the way they wanted to vote. Why? Because they felt that was in their best interest to screw the people. So all of these are institutional flaws. Now, there's nothing wrong with the institution. There's something wrong with the people. I went to, and let me show you how simple this is. I was in Atlanta, and I went to Cracker Barrel in Atlanta. And I know what I want in Cracker Barrel because I get it here and anywhere else along the way. Cracker Barrel, I know what it's gonna taste like. But I get to this one in Atlanta, and I get there and they get the food out and I get my same meal. I'm expecting to be satisfied. This is always a satisfying meal for me. And I start eating it, it's all wrong. The fish is wrong. My potatoes is crunchy. I got some problems with this. So I call the people and I say, well, what's the problem? This meal is the meal I had in Ohio. I don't stop in Tennessee and ate this meal. I don't stop in everywhere I go. I like Cracker Barrel and I like that meal. So I get there and I can't understand what's wrong with it. People are telling me, well, we're sorry, we'll remake it. And they did, and it still was crappy. I said, wow. So I said to myself, this is an institutional problem. So I have to write this institution and say to them, what's going on with you? I got to hold that institution responsible for this action. These people, you hired these people, and they're not functioning according to what the plan is. And I've been dissatisfied by that. So I want that institution, just like I want every other institution, to function according to what their bylaws say they're going to do. Now, when we look at institutions, we look at laws, like the sister said at the beginning. These are our laws. Why? Because we have a what? An institution, this charter. So these are our laws that we have to follow. So when other institutions come up, they give you bylaws. If these is what we follow. If I go in a Jeep, it's going to say, hey, I'm following this. Is Jeep going to be against the United States? Nope. Because they already signed something in order to get chartered to be not go against the United States. We already have an agreement with the United States to function independently. And so why would we not support the United States? It's our protection. That makes sense. But we have a treaty in place that dictates that this is our working relationship. That is the law. And this abides by it. And we must hold them accountable to the same law. Is law?
I was just gonna say that when we look at organizations that have their bylaws, their constitution and bylaws, one of the things that is said when it's a state and the federal government is that the state can have its own laws, but they cannot be lesser than those laws that are already put there. And if you listen, when we read these divine constitution and bylaws, they're not lesser. In fact, in some forms, they're even tighter, more stringent. Higher, because you have to deal with what's going on if there's something within the temple justice. And part of that temple justice might be that, okay, now you in this other justice system too. That's a stronger bylaw.
Yes, it is. So to the end of this is that you are the one that represents the institution that you in. So you are the one that makes the institution corrupt, or you make it honorable. You know what I'm saying? And you are the one that makes it something that somebody gonna have faith in. When you say something that it came from here, they're gonna go, okay, I wanna be involved in that because I know those people are righteous and they're good and they're gonna do what they believe is right. They're not gonna do what they know is wrong just because everybody else is doing it. Islam? So now with that said, do anybody have any questions along those lines? Any statements? And did everybody get around to 3 times a day telling somebody something positive? Everybody did? She did too? They did? Islam?
I did.
He does.
I said 20.
You said 20. Islam. That's how it ended up going. You know, the brother in the back, what's going on? Did you say something? All right,
I know he said some stuff because we Facebook friends, and I stalk him behind the scenes. So,
right. So we'll have now we're gonna continue that. We're gonna continue that process, and in 2 to 3 weeks, we're gonna see a drastic difference in our relationship and reaction to people, and people reaction to us. People that wasn't normally talking to us are gonna start coming up and start talking because they feel that you're open to them because you said these positive things about them. Even when they was gripey when you said them, they heard you.
And they will come back later and be like,
yeah, I didn't mean to be gripey.
And you said, right. And I was just thinking it could be 4 weeks ago you said it, you don't forgot you said it. Right. But they remember.
They gonna remember, you know. So I'm glad everybody is doing that, and it's a wonderful thing, and you will see nothing but benefit from it. And we're gonna take this time now to prepare to close out. If anybody have any questions, you can ask them afterwards. We're gonna try to stay to our time. And if there's any questions, feel free to stay over a little bit and ask. Stand and face east.
The brother gonna pray us out.
Hey, sister, you know you lead. It's the sister leading everything.
I tried. Okay, face these, 5 on the left, 2 on the right. Repeat after me. Allah, the Father of the universe.
Allah, the Father of the universe.
The Father of love.
The Father of love.
Truth.
Truth.
Peace.
Peace.
Freedom.
Freedom.
And justice.
And justice.
Allah is my protector.
Allah is my protector.
My guide.
My guide.
And my salvation.
And my salvation.
By night and by day.
By night and by day.
Through his holy prophet.
Through his holy prophet.
Jurali.
Jurali.
Amen.
Amen.
Please stay standing. Allah bind our hearts and minds back to our ancient forefathers, divine creed and principles. This we ask in thy holy name and the 7 Elohim. Amen.
Islam.